First off, thanks for checking out this video and welcome to the channel. As you saw from the title of this video, I'm going to try and help you get a better understanding of how to play the Pokemon Trading Card game. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The Pokemon Trading Card game is played with collectible trading cards that you'll use to form a strategy to defeat your opponent. Two players send out their Pokemon to the field and duke it out using energy cards, which allows them to attack. And you'll also want to be supporting these Pokemon with trainer cards. Each player can have a maximum of 6 Pokemon on the field at a time, 1 in the active spot and 5 on your bench. Only the Pokemon in the active spot may attack. The Pokemon on your bench are for support for when you need to tag in another Pokemon if yours is knocked out, or close to it. And speaking of Pokemon, there are 3 stages of them in the TCG currently. There are basic Pokemon, which can be played straight from the hand to the field immediately. Stage 1 Pokemon, which may be put on top of a basic Pokemon to evolve it after the basic Pokemon has been in play for at least 1 turn. And Stage 2 Pokemon. The same rule applies, but it has to be with the Stage 1. Now, let's get to the battling part. Attacking. To have your active Pokemon attack, you will need to attach energy cards. You will need the specific amount and type of energy requested for each attack listed on the card. Sometimes you may only need 1 energy, sometimes you may need 5. It ranges all over depending on the card. And not only will you be needing to attack in this game, but you will also need to support your Pokemon. And how will you do that? With trainer cards. These are used to help draw cards, discard opponent cards, heal Pokemon, move Pokemon, and more. Most people who play competitively have their deck made up of at least half trainer cards. These are a must. Now once you've attacked, your turn is over and it is now your opponent's turn. They will have their move, they will conduct their turn, and then they will attack. Each player goes back and forth just like in the video games when they attack. Each Pokemon that you and your opponent plays has a specific amount of hit points, or HP. Once your Pokemon has taken equal to or greater than the number of HP it has, it is knocked out. Once a Pokemon in the active spot is knocked out, you must move a Pokemon from your bench to replace it. If you do not have a Pokemon on the bench to replace it, you actually lose the game. But if you do have one on your bench, it will take your active Pokemon's spot and your opponent will take a prize card. Now each player has 6 prize cards that they take from the top of their deck at the start of the battle and they set them aside. You gain these by knocking out Pokemon. Whichever player ends up taking all 6 prizes first, that is one other win condition to winning the game. Another way to win the game is if your opponent runs out of cards and they're not able to draw a card at the beginning of their turn. So there are so many ways to win the game, and there's tons of strategies to build around this. Now that we know the basics on how the game is played itself, let's take a closer look at some of the other mechanics of the Pokemon TCG. Abilities. Some Pokemon have abilities they can use once per turn, or sometimes multiple times. These abilities can range from moving damage, dealing damage, healing damage, drawing cards, making your opponent move things around on their field, and more. Pokemon with abilities really make the game interesting and can really throw a wrench into your opponent's strategies. Next, we're going to talk about another mechanic of the game. But before I do that, if you guys are enjoying this video and are liking it, just make sure to check out the rest of my channel because I make all sorts of Pokemon related content, from reviews on toys, to statues, to going to play Pokemon events. I mean, I just went to regionals, and if you guys haven't seen it, make sure to check out that vlog because I had an absolute blast. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're going to go ahead and move back into the video. Another mechanic about Pokemon cards is weakness and resistance. At the bottom left of the card, some Pokemon will have weaknesses and resistances, but not always. In this example though, they do. And if a Pokemon is weak to a type, they will take double damage. If it resists the attacking Pokemon's type, however, it deals 30 less damage. So always be aware of what your deck is weak to and strong against. Also, at the bottom right of the card is another mechanic that may or sometimes may not be there. And this mechanic also requires energy. It's called Retreat Cost. This is a way for you to move your active Pokemon from the active spot and swap it with a Pokemon from your bench. You may want to do this because your active Pokemon is about to get knocked out, or you have a better Pokemon ready to battle on the bench with an advantage. There are so many types of Pokemon and energy to use, so be aware of what you will need, but do keep in mind that when you retreat a Pokemon, you must discard energy equal to the retreat cost to move it to the bench. Next, let's talk trainer cards. There are actually 3 types: items, stadiums, and supporter trainer cards. You may play as many item cards as you want during your turn, and there is a subset of item cards referred to as tool item cards, and you may attach only 1 tool per Pokemon. And tool cards can allow your Pokemon to have another secondary ability that ranges from all different kinds of things, from slightly more health to every time it gets hit you draw a card, to all different kinds of stuff. Next is supporter cards. You may only play 1 supporter card per turn, and these are normally the most important to a deck. These will let you draw the most cards, or search for specific cards, or be able to move your opponent's Pokemon around. But like I said, you can only play 1 per turn, so make sure you're using them wisely. The 1 per turn rule also applies for stadium cards, but stadium cards will stay in play until they are either removed by a card or removed by another stadium card, because we can only have 1 in play at a time. Now, with the introduction of the newest set of Pokemon at the time of making this video, Temporal Forces, Pokemon reintroduced a trainer card type that has been long gone in the Pokemon trading card game. The Ace Spec card. These cards are so powerful, you can only have 1 Ace Spec card in your deck, period. Ace Spec card abilities range from swapping your opponent's Pokemon and your Pokemon at the same time, searching your deck for 1 card and immediately adding it to your hand, or just straight up giving your Pokemon an extra 100 HP. Ace Spec cards are a must in your deck. Now, some more tricky and pesky strategies in the Pokemon TCG revolve around status conditions. These consist of paralysis, poison, burn, confusion, and sleep. Just like in the video games, these can really change how you plan to have a battle and may even cost you the match. When you are under the condition of confusion, sleep, or paralysis, you indicate this by rotating your Pokemon card in the correct way seen here, depending on the condition. Poison and burn conditions, however, are marked with counters, and these are commonly given out with ETBs and pre-built deck boxes normally. Now, what do each of these conditions do? Well, let's start with sleep. Sleep prevents your Pokemon from attacking and retreating. In between turns, you flip a coin, and if heads, your Pokemon is back to normal. But if tails, it remains asleep for another turn. If your active Pokemon is ever confused, you must flip a coin if you wish to attack. If heads, the attack goes through as normal, but if tails, your Pokemon actually deals 30 damage to itself, your opponent's Pokemon takes no damage, and your turn ends. You may come across when your Pokemon is paralyzed as well. This special condition prevents you from attacking and retreating for 1 turn. After that turn has passed, you do recover and you're good to go. If your Pokemon has been burned, you have to take 20 damage between turns. Then, once you've taken the damage, you flip a coin. If heads, you are no longer burned and you don't take damage between turns anymore. If tails, however, you continue taking damage and flipping coins between turns. If your Pokemon has been poisoned, you take 10 damage between turns until you move it to the bench, evolve it, or heal it with a trainer card. There is no flipping a coin for poison, so you will be poisoned until you do one of those 3 things. Now, a Pokemon cannot have paralysis, sleep, or confusion at the same time, due to having to rotate the card to display what you have. However, a Pokemon can have one of those 3, paralysis, sleep, or confusion, and burned and poison counters on it. So you can actually have a maximum of 3 status conditions at once. For example, your Pokemon could be paralyzed, burned, and poisoned. So always be prepared for status conditions and being able to prevent those. These can be very pesky and they can definitely cost you the game. And I would like to thank everybody who has stuck around so far in the video. I would just like to thank you and ask if you could please like and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed everything you saw so far. And if it helped you out in any way, please let me know in the comments. If there's any other things that you would like to know about the TCG, don't worry. I'm working on a part 2 to this series, so subscribe and stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next video.